All right, hello and welcome to episode 2 of Channel JPEG. This is where we discuss all things NFT, but more specifically, art and those making art in the space. We're trying to uncover and understand who's doing what, the current market trends, what's pumping and what's dumping, and all of the exciting, innovative work being done in Web3. So I'm sitting here with Mike. Hello, sir.
GM
How
Stosh.
we doing?
Good to see you again.
Yes, sir. How's the weekend?
So far, so good. It's a rainy day here in Atlanta. So it's
a nice
just one of these.
nice one
it's
here
a hoodie
in
day.
New York. Oh, word,
No.
word. It's cold today.
It's a hoodie day for the culture.
I know. I'll take it though. I like it. Moonbird's hat, repping, all the
That's
good
right,
stuff.
baby. That's right.
All right. So today, I guess we're gonna get into some Grails, huh?
Yeah, I thought we'd talk a little bit about Grails. What's a Grail? You know, I have a YouTube video dropping at some point this week where we go over a little bit about some specific Grails, but then I think this whole idea in a bear market, right? What's been pumping? Art.
Yeah,
And,
big time.
you know, Bored Apes stay kind of where they are,
Punks.
and
Yep.
Punks stay where they are, and then
Yep.
besides that, everything else seems to be dropping, PFP wise, but art stuff seems to be holding strong or even gaining momentum.
Yeah.
And we might be watching a mini bull run of art before our eyes, right? Will it sustain? I don't know. I think everyone who's still in the space is still looking to make money, and if they're looking to make money, they're looking to flip stuff. And if it's the eyeballs are on Artblocks stuff right now and art, then you're going to see things run. Is it sustainable? Who knows? So yeah. Before we jumped on, we were talking a little bit about Artblocks, right? And you had watched something. You were feeling a little bit of FOMO on a project that you looked at a couple of days ago that was under 1 ETH, which has gone up over 700% at this point.
Yeah. I think you pronounce her name Hollowell. She's an artist. She just released her first generative collection on Artblocks called Contractions. And it deals with like her process, I think, of processing giving birth and her body. And quite an interesting concept. Obviously, you can look it up on Artblocks and check it out. And I'm sitting there following it. I saw Artblocks tweet about it, so I went on the website. I was like, this is cool, very cool. Let me check this out. I was ready. Followed the Dutch auction. Something happened with my connection. I thought it went down to like 0.35. I was like, oh, I got to jump on this. Tried to hit it again. It's closed. It's sold out. I was like, okay, cool. Go look on secondary. It's at 1 ETH. Now, I'm like, do you jump on this at 1 ETH? Or is this one of those things that's going to go back down to like 0.3? I'm sorry. And it's like, what do you do? And do you just have conviction and I believe in this? It's like, okay, so I vaguely, know who this artist is, but do I have I followed them? You know what I mean? Is this Damien Hirst? No, I you know what I mean? I'm not there with this artist. So my conviction was not strong. So cool. Then it pumps to 3 this weekend, and I'm like, oh man, see, the FOMO is building. I wake up this morning. I look on secondary. We just looked now, and what did I tell you it was? 7.34.
So the inner FOMO in all of us is like, this is going to 20. This is the next. And so, in my mind, this is the worst time to jump in right now.
Right. So let's talk thesis.
Sure. Right.
Yes.
Even if it doubles in the next 24 hours, right?
Uh-huh.
At this point, you're taking your ETH into your hands with this, right? So the thesis is, at the end of the day, and I have a similar story. Let me share my story, and then we'll get into the thesis of what I think is important if you are Grail hunting, right, in a current market. So my story is, I've been following Artblocks for a long time, not long enough to have any. I actually have nothing. I don't have a squiggle. Although I was going to buy a squiggle when the floor price was, I think it dipped to like 8 or 9.
Grails.
Squiggles are Grails, 100%. 100%. I was looking at the floor squiggles. I think 8 or 9 ETH at one point, right when the bear market really began, and it didn't stay there very long. And I didn't jump on it. Whatever. That's not my story. My story is when I saw William Mapon's anti-cyclones, they were hovering around 1 or 2, and then they came up a little bit, like 5, 6 ETH. I actually have no idea what they're at now. But then it came down again, anti-cyclone. And it came down a little bit. And actually, I'd like to know what it is right now.
7.5.
Sure. So, you know, I had an opportunity to buy it like 2 or 3, and I remember looking at it, and I didn't have a lot of ETH, and I was like, you know, but I actually really like them. And this should also
artist,
really,
actually.
Yeah, he's amazing. We should really talk. This should be part of the thesis too, right? As artists and as art collectors and art enthusiasts. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, I just don't. And then it got to 5 or 6, and now it's at 7, and it's sort of never come back down. So I felt very much like I missed out on that. Mm-hmm. And as much as I liked it, I, in my heart, was not going to keep it. I wanted to flip it, right? Because I have this idea that if, again, we can get into the Grails and what Grails are and the thesis, right? Like, a punk is like
that's it.
I need that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I look at attributes all the time. I like say like, oh, well, maybe he's got an earring, or does he have a hat? Facts.
Right. I need that.
Yep.
You know, I actually have the ETH address waiting for it. Foreverpunk.eth. I own it. I have that waiting because once it goes in there, it's not coming out.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to flip up to that, right?
Yeah.
But also, and I think the end of the story, the moral of the story is like, if I had a thesis, or if I knew sort of like, I'm doing this to get to this, or maybe my thesis is I collect art I like and I never sell it, right? And I don't care what the price is, and if I don't have the money, I figure it out. Or if I don't have the money, then I say, I don't have the money today, and one day I will, and I don't let myself feel the FOMO. Whatever my thesis is, all of that to be said, that there's going to be a lot of these stories where we just don't pull the trigger. But if you have a thesis, you pull the trigger when your thesis and the market meet. So, what could be the thesis? What could have been, you know, if you want to collect art, then your thesis should be, I'm always going to do whatever I can to buy pieces I like under this price. And
Pieces
it doesn't matter.
I like that. I think that's a huge part of it too, right? Is that like, because I also like, there's some things I want to flip up to, right? So those things kind of like are in conflict. I'm like, yo, like I'm going to hold to my ETH. I'm going to try to flip up. I'm going to try to get to like, let's just say punks. That's, you know, I'm going to try to get there, which basically means not buying or, you know, it's like so many things can pump or not. And it's like, oh, do you really believe in this artist? Do you really think, you know, I mean, there was a Sebastião Salgado drop through Sotheby's, and I don't remember what it is, like 500 images or whatever. And man, some of those are going for like 0.15 or something. He's an enormous name in photography, you know, in fine art photography, enormous. And I don't know, maybe it's just not translating, right? So I like the work, you know, I bought one, minted one, flipped it. I feel guilt and a bit of like sorrow around that. And I think it does come back to like, am I going to buy? That's art that I liked. I followed his career. I've always enjoyed the work. I found it very deep and meaningful what he does. And, you know, and so, yeah, I probably shouldn't have flipped it, right? But it puts me in a position to where like now I'm a little bit closer to one of my grails.
Which is?
Memories of Keelan.
Oh, yeah. You like those.
Hands down. That's like, you know, under 10 ETH, you know, we're not talking about Fidenzas and Bringers and Meridians and all that. Yeah. Emily G, I think, like, yeah, man, that's, for me, so dope. Yeah. It sits around 5 something. I looked at it last night. 5.3. Yeah. And obviously, too, there are certain traits that I would like over other traits, blah, blah, blah. But, under or around 5, under 10, that's the one for me. But
that's what's up.
You know, there's like we said, man, there's like Tara Donovan just released QWERTY. That was sitting around 0.4 for days and days and days. And I just like, Tara Donovan is a you know, a pretty big artist in like traditional art world. You know, and so I was like, oh, maybe this isn't translating.
are we finally, are the trad artists coming in? Because
big time. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, did you see like Goda is doing the Hilma af Klint? They're releasing I don't know how many images of her work. Yep, they just announced that Friday.
Oh wow, maybe?
Huge. Her work is so incredible, and it's
did you go
right
to that
for
show
the
at the Guggenheim?
Yeah. So I do think we're seeing it. You know, again though, it's like we know these images, right? Or we know these paintings or this artist. And I do believe that there will be enough people that are like educated in that space that are in this space for things like that to pop. I mean, it can't not. But same thing with Salgado photos. They are going to appreciate 100%, you know?
Right.
You know, then there's like what Nina Chanel Abney, like those that drop that she or they, sorry, I don't know the pronouns, did for Go to Pass. You know, they sit around 0.35, they go up to 0.5, whatever. I think those are amazing. You know, it's just tough to say what's going to like really do it. So I think it's like, do I like that piece? Yes. Okay, then, you know, then invest in that work, invest in that artist. And, you know, also, and I think a lot of us do this, when I see work that I like, I go and I see like the wallets. And OpenSea now, the analytics is a huge help, you know? Mm-hmm. So if I see people like 6529, you know, if I see Vincent Van Doe, if I see DC Investor, any of those names, I'm like, okay, all right. And I have seen those names and I still sold, you know? And so it hurts. It hurts.
I think a couple things. One, we have to know that we're still early, but we're not so early. There is now the upper echelon of art collectors, Grail holders. You know, it's been like punks have been around now 5 years. We're talking,
which is insane, right?
It's insane, right? But I mean, which is a short amount of time and also a long amount of time in this space, right?
Yep.
So you know, could you hit it? Sure, you'd have to have like some true conviction and like buy a whole, you know, sweep the floor times 10 on some stuff and have it, you know, go 700%, right? And and then flip it all, and all of a sudden you're sitting on 1,000 ETH or something like that, right? It's possible. Right. I mean, is it going to happen? Who knows? So we need to, inside your thesis, you need to know that it might take time, and it might also, you might not get to that status of like an incredible art collection or whatever, you know, right away, but also know that, and I guess it's possible, right? Because, for instance, today, right, October 30th, 2022, there's an artist with stuff sitting on a platform somewhere that in 6 months, a year, whatever, right, is going to be the next thing. So, again, if you come back to the thesis, which I think, you know, what keeps coming back to me in my mind is, like, if, for instance, in the world of like collecting cards or collecting stuff, whatever, right? What always holds value? Rookie cards, right? And super rare stuff, like one-of-one stuff.
Right.
So, you know, if you could get something from an artist and it's the first thing that they did, I would always say go for that over, you know, the new hot thing, right? So, for instance, whatever this, you know, artist that releases something today on Artblocks, if it's the first thing they've done and it's good, whatever, right? You know, if you can make it work, make it work. If they've released something and it's gotten, you know, up in value or something like that, and there's a way to look back and see, have they released things elsewhere? Do they have any one-on-one stuff that we don't know about? Or you know, Artblocks is very popular. It's very hot right now. People want Artblock stuff because it's trendy and it's the thing, and it's because it's great. I mean, it's not like that's not deserve. It should be popular and it's great, but also, right, like there's just so much of it there that you know, to keep up with that, and that can be part of your thesis. If your thesis is I buy one of every Artblocks thing that gets, no matter what, that's probably a pretty good thesis. You know, eventually you cover all your bases, you're going to have something like, you know, like this contraction thing is going to hit. But for every one contraction piece, I don't know how many Artblocks things, it seems to be a lot. It seems to be stuff happening all the time, right? So, you know, you're probably going to get 1 out of 10. But if that's your thesis, you hold for the long term, all of a sudden you have a complete set. That's the other thing, right? Everyone's talking about the original. I know they just changed their whole paradigm, so now they're doing a little more like, I actually don't exactly know. I know they had like 3 sections at one point, and now it's a little different, but
it is a bit confusing, right? Because there was like playground, curated, I'm probably not getting it all right, but like, yeah, and now I started to read about it, and I was like, all right, so is it just all, you're just going to release stuff, or...
Right. I think
we'll see.
I think one of them anybody's allowed to do it. Another one you have to be sort of curated in, and the other one is like the main thing. So if you buy one of every main thing, you'll probably do okay. Yeah. So, that's one thesis. But the other thesis could be like, how do I, like do a little bit of the legwork and find out like, oh, this person maybe did this, and it's like, if it's not like so,
I tell you what I've been doing is looking on Tezos. Because a lot of people like on Object and all that, a lot of these guys like Louis Ponce, man, so many. You go over to that, marketplace, and you see like one-of-ones, editions, blah, blah, blah. Like people have been releasing stuff for a while, and I think just being able to cross-reference now is incredible. And I think that a lot of people, it's like that article you sent me about Van Gogh and XCOPY, right? XCOPY has been making work. What did he say? He sold his first piece for £1.
Yeah, £1.
Yeah, and then he was trying to give stuff away. Yeah, 10 years ago. So he's an overnight success. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success.
Exactly.
Right? That's the deal.
Exactly. I just keep going, right?
Yeah.
Just keep going. In that sense, we're still early. In that sense, you could start today, and in a year, most likely have something brewing. Somehow. Yeah. If for nothing else.
I guess it's macro too, right? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Right, no, but like if nothing else, your art will probably have been refined. And, if you don't know, you'll see what people like, what they don't respond to, and you could kind of take it from there, right? Multiply that by 10 years, and all of a sudden you've got something going on. That's also being early. But again, I think in that sense, we are early. But so should we bookend the thesis idea, right? Yeah. So you should know what you want to do, to achieve, right? And it's okay if it's just literally collect things I like. But if you just collect things you like, then you probably shouldn't expect to, make $1 million from it. It could happen.
Right.
If your thesis is to collect every Artblocks piece that gets dropped and hold it for 10 years, in 10 years, that's probably a pretty good thesis, right? It's probably like, okay, that you might, but that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Because if you're holding for 10, and it's like, if you're holding for 10 years, then shit's going to go up and down and blah, 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 right? But, you might have a pretty awesome collection. If your thesis is to buy and sell and flip to a Fidenza or to a Punk, I think the risk reward is a lot more. You can expect the potential for max pain a little bit more, right? Because you might make a bad decision. You might lose money, but it could work. If you wait 10 years, if you say, I'm going to buy everything, hold for 10 years, and I'll buy a Punk in 10 years, well, then the price range might be out of reach then, too.
Oh, yeah.
So I think a thesis is good.
So what's your... Let's say that you see something you like. What's your kind of like, what's the research you're going to do around it before you pull the trigger?
For me,
or not.
If I see something I like, I am going to, so as an artist, of course, I need to like vibe with it right away. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you that a lot of the stuff on Artblocks, I do not vibe with right away. Like, I looked at the contract, for instance, right? No shade to the artist. I looked at it and I said, this is not for me. So, whereas if I looked at William Ipon, I looked at, there's something on there, I can't remember the name of it now, but it looks like a map. Avalon is what it's called. The first time I saw it, I was like, this looks great. I loved it. So that's the first thing. I need to vibe with it. I need to vibe with what it looks like. Now, I know we've also spoken about, for instance, punks or squiggles, or even moonbirds, right? Like, the first time I saw all of that, I was like, really? Then, but in the cultural sort of zeitgeist, you start to just become something that you like it over time, right? Yeah. After that, I look at, the price, and I look at if it's sold out. I mean, most of the time it's something that has come across the feed on Twitter. If somebody's talking about it enough times, it probably has sold out. So I look at the price, I look at what, where it's at. And then I kind of scroll through. I at this point in my collecting, I basically only go for floors just because I'm not in a position to like buy something and then expect, like, I just feel like to be liquid is a little bit, it'd be good to be liquid so that, if you buy a floor, you probably have an easier chance of selling it. Mm-hmm. So I look at the floors, and then I look at, the price of ETH and what it's sort of been going for, and I kind of take it from there. My art buying has sort of been on hold for a while just because I haven't really been very liquid in what I have. One of my theses is that you and I used to joke about all the time was never sell Bitcoin, right? And I've sold Bitcoin for some NFTs, and I've lost US dollars on that. So, by the way, this is, not financial advice. We should probably make sure we say that.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice, right? The thesis.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
None of it.
None of it is financial advice. We have no idea what we're talking about in the sense of what you should do with your money. And then I, if I am going to pull the trigger, then I do it. But you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's time for me to sit down and really figure out my thesis. Right? I have not bought a lot of stuff recently, right? Because I had the Moonbird, I got the Oddity. I've sold some things. I sold some drops that I've gotten, and I've sat on everything else. And I've sort of just really kind of just been waiting to see sort of what happens next. I've been considering buying a Max Payne XCOPY because I think it's good to hold one of those.
Yeah. Do you think something's going to happen with that? Like, do you think, there's been talk that some things are going to change? You think it's just going to stay as is?
Man, I don't know. This guy XCOPY, is he Banksy? Is he just like some dude? I know we know he's English. That was
the word.
For sure.
Yeah.
The word is that he's English. I think could it change? That would be incredible. That would be Max Payne. Right?
Yeah.
To be talking about it. There was that time and if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Max Payne was a nifty gateway drop by XCOPY, an edition, and it's something like 7,500 were sold. I think it was open for 10 minutes. It was at 1 ETH. And then it dropped a little bit, then it pumped. Now it's back to 0.6-ish a little bit. And I don't know price-wise in US dollars how comparable that is. My mind wants to tell me that it's probably cost less in US dollars than it did when it was dropped. Yeah, it has to.
Max Payne of Friends is 0.62 right now.
Yeah, so I don't know what ETH is today, but let's just say that's probably like
1,600.
Yeah, so let's say that's $900. I think at the time ETH was probably $2,000, 2,500. So that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. The only thing is, right, is it just an edition? Cool. There's only 7,500 of them. The thing about XCOPY, and if this is we bring this back to the Grails thing, is the dude has made a lot of art. There is a lot of stuff out there. So as much as right click save as guy or Summer JPEG or any of those are in the millions, there's a lot of stuff that's accessible for him, meaning you could get his stuff. So, it's not like it's all millions of dollars. So that's kind of interesting, right? Also, does he say, cool, I've been making art for the last 10 years. I'm going on hiatus later. That would be a big deal, right? I mean, all of a sudden it's I hope you like all the editions I've been putting out because I'm never going to do an edition ever again. Whoa, right? So then all of a sudden Max Payne and Friends is going up because that's the last time you're ever going to... So that's a good thesis. I would say I had a thesis at one point. It was a very short-lived thesis that I was going to buy as many Max Payne as I could all the time and just collect them, right? I don't know if you have a Warhol print, it's pretty awesome versus an actual Warhol on your wall, right? So it's just buy prints. So anyway, I think there's a lot of different ways to do this thing, and at the end of the day, it's again, it has to come back to why am I doing it, and what's my thesis?
Yeah, I guess it's, the thing
You?
too about...
Do you have one? What about you?
A thesis?
No, like if you see
it
something
changes
you
every
want.
day.
Why did you want contractions? Did you want contractions because you thought that it was going to make you money?
Make me money.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good to know. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but see, it's like those two
But why that one?
things...
Why that one? Why not all the 10 other ones that are dropping over the last 10 days or something?
I dug it that she's like a trad art, comes from that world. Same thing with Tara Donovan and like Pace, and I like that. And I like that
you had heard
coming
of them
over.
before.
Yeah. I wasn't extremely familiar, so that in and of itself is like, I think that's something too. Like I got to know who these people are. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like I'm not going to buy Damien Hirst. I know who Damien Hirst is. We all kind of know who Damien Hirst is. But like.
Why? Because he's jumped the shark?
Yeah. It's just too much, man. You know what I mean? Like people that I know that have like really terrible tastes are rocking like Damien Hirst Vans, and so it doesn't mean as much to me. Yeah, Vans.
He's got Vans.
Dots. Yeah, they're like dots. The dot Vans.
That's what his NFT was. The dots.
Yeah. Which, listen, I think that whole burn mechanism that he did was pretty cool. You get
cool.
the physical, or you get the NFT.
I liked it.
And I mean, dude, obviously he's a super successful artist, but we don't all have to like the same art. It's okay. So yeah, like with that contractions thing, I did think it was cool. I think also it's like, what kind of art am I into buying? Am I into like really like glitchy? Do I like? Right now, especially with all of the technology, I'm really obviously generative art and like how people are getting to that. P5JS, Harvey Rayner just did that drop, which I thought was amazing. Should have jumped on that. Right now, it's just it was on Artblocks. Yeah. I mean, when I see a piece I like to sit and mull it over for weeks at a time and wait for it to drop to the absolute minimum, which I try to time the bottom. And then it skyrockets, and then I just sit in FOMO, and I don't make any moves. But I think going forward, with art, I have to know something about the artist. You know what I mean? Dude, first thing you said is I have to vibe with the art. I have to vibe with the art. I don't want to hold something. When I look at PFPs, even if I'm buying a floor, something or other to hope that I can flip, oftentimes to my own detriment, aesthetically, it has to be something I dig. It just does, man. It's just, so, that kind of holds me back, I guess, but that's my vibe. And so I got to dig the work. I think also I have to want to hold it long term, like I've been looking through that Tara Donovan collection. Also, I love that things are like 500, 250, 300,
small.
Yeah. And I think, the thing too with like the XCOPY, what are they, 7,500? Mm-hmm. Is that?
Yep.
Something so, like I think I'm like, damn, that's a lot of the same JPEG, right?
Right.
But what were they saying? Like, how many, Travis Scott Nikes are dropped? Like 100,000? How many? You know what I mean? Like lots, like in comparison. And those are like limited drops, limited edition drops. So are 7,500, Max Payne and Friends, like, is that too much? Like you said, like if he never drops an edition again, or this particular edition, I don't know. And okay, so it's USD, it's $900. Okay, do I dig it? Does it mean something to me? Also, you talk about like holding something for 10 years, dude. In 10 years, the metaverse is going to be completely different and just so much more. Our lives will be so much more integrated with and in that, right? There's an amazing thing I just watched. Raw Paul interviewed this guy about AI, and like, in the next 6 months, what's going to happen with AI is just mind blowing. The technology is so far beyond my comprehension. I need to watch this video about 6 other times. But that kind of art, just what all of it means. Like, dude, this art, it's like, it's actually going to sit and live in our digital homes or spaces or whatever, and it's going to have much more value, and it will continue, in my opinion, to accrue value. And
Totally.
Like status, cultural value, all of that stuff, not just like financial gain. So I think my thesis going forward is I got to vibe with it. I got to have enough. Let's say I have 2 ETH. I'm sitting on 2 ETH, right? And this costs me, and I see a piece that's 2 ETH. I can't afford to buy it. I think that the financial implications of things also, like, I think it's a big deal, because then I have nothing. And then I'm sitting there, I'm trying to play catch up, and then I'm looking at that piece, and then all of a sudden, let's say it's 2 ETH and it goes down to like 1.75. Me personally, I'm freaking out. Oh my God, it's going to drop. I just lost everything, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't afford the like long game, the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan, 6-month plan,
Right. So you got to look at how much you really got to spend right now, or let's say that you get to 1, or every time you get to the number that you're trying to get to, let's just say 2 ETH, like you said, right? Then you say, I'm never going to spend more than 25% of that number on a piece, right? Yep. So what's cool, right, is like, it's like that Cat Williams skit, that Cat Williams skit where he's talking about his kid and Christmas, and he's like, why would I buy my son, one $100 toy when I could buy him 100 $1 toys? Like, can you imagine? And it's like, the way he does it is hilarious, right? And it's true, it's kind of like, imagine waking up on Christmas and being like, holy shit, I got 100 toys, right? Yeah. So, you got 2 ETH, and if you can spend 0.25 on 4 different things, all of a sudden, that visually you got 4 different things to look at. Now you're following 4 different artists. There's like this thing that happened to me when I bought my first NFT versus just sitting on the sidelines, right? Happened with Bitcoin too. It's like, oh, I'm in this thing now. Oh, I'm following that artist. Oh, on Twitter, check out, I just bought one of your things, right? All of a sudden turns out this person, this. So there's really there's that skin in the game too. Yeah. And why not have 4 different sort of avenues to get into versus 1? There's always going to be that time where, you're going to see something and you're going to love it, but you can't afford it. I mean, you could afford it, but it doesn't fit into your thesis. And that's where like the rubber meets the road, right? You have to be like, in the future, I'm always like, I will have enough in the future to buy that punk. I will have enough in the future to buy that punk. I can't do it today, but I'm working towards it.
Yep.
What are you going to do, right? I mean, it's just part of
you got to, and I think too, it's like, you don't build a career in 3 months, you build it over time. Exactly. Just like a collection, I can't look at the, like, the DC investors and those guys with like, yo, dude, when you have like 10 Fidenzas, I'm just making this up, I don't know what this guy's, 10 Fidenzas and like 16 Meridians, blah, blah. I'm not rolling like that. So I got to sit back, do what I can do, find the artists that I'm really into. Also, I think the thing too that you're talking about with skin in the game is like, I want to, vibe with the art, the artists, and like, it also was like opened me up to looking into so many other areas. Like, oh, this artist kind of leads to this guy, and then this guy leads to this guy. And then like, I just learned about this guy, I think it's I don't know if it's Simons or Simmons, one of his collections. Bart Simpson?
I heard about
No, I wish. I know, right? There's a collection that he has, and it's trending now on OpenSea, and he's from Rotterdam, and it's like Getty or something. I don't know. Bart Simons, Simons. But I've been looking at another collection that he did too, which is like, this one I think is like above an ETH, and the one that I'm looking at is like below or around 0.5. The floor is around 0.5. So, that leads me to this. And then there's another person. And then, obviously you follow people on Twitter and see where they're working. But then I'm in the community, right? Which is such a huge part of Web3, NFTs, and like, I'm contributing to the community. I'm researching it. I'm being a part of it. Hopefully I'm adding something to it. And, and then you find these other artists and you, there are people I communicate with on Twitter that are other artists, and I love to see them doing things, and I just think it's good to be a part of it, not just somebody that sits and critiques and is like, oh, the XCOPY or whoever, like, fuck that. It's like, I want to build along with everybody. Everybody can win, right?
Spend your energy on things you like, not tearing down stuff you don't like. It's just like,
Yeah.
Totally. If you don't like it, just keep moving. Keep it moving.
Yep. Exactly.
I mean, honestly, I look at Fidenzas and I'm like, I don't know. You know,
Right.
it looks like not to like. I like that Snowfro was talking about IKEA. You walk into IKEA and you get an Artblocks thing. They print it on demand or something like that. He had that idea. I don't know if you've heard that, but like,
No.
but basically, like, I don't know. A lot of it looks like IKEA art, which
Right.
is fine. I understand it now. Actually, I really like the QQL stuff visually more than the Fidenza stuff. You know, but whatever, right? So again, it's like I have to know that visually as an artist, I made a decision to say no to CryptoPunks when I looked at it on my couch in 2017. I remember the exact moment of doing it, looking at it, being like, that's not for me. I remember looking at my phone in the park, walking my dog when Bored Apes dropped. I was like, that's definitely not for me. And, you know, Fidenzas, I wasn't there when it was minting, but the first time I saw it, I was like, what is this? Right? So, you know, whereas I could tell you that, like I said, William Epon or XCOPY or, you know, some of this stuff, the first time I saw it, I was like, that appeals to me. So, you know, it is what it is, right? I think that's like, it just comes back to the thesis again, you know. I mean, I just like you, right? Like, grown up an artist, like, my parents used to take me to art museums. I remember seeing, you know, modern art and stuff like that, like when I was very young, and art books in the house. My stepdad's a graphic designer. It's like my mom had a master's in fine art. Like, art has been a part of my life. I have what I'm visually drawn to, and you know, if that is in front of me, then and I can go for it, then I'll go for it. Like Ferocious, for instance. When I see that, I'm like, I like that. You know, and then I can like look at like his there. I can look at their span of work and be like, they've been doing this for a minute, and this is for me. You know?
Yeah.
So we should, you know, I don't know, Ferocious.
Ferocious. I mean, that like they're a phenomenon.
Right, like that's a Grail. That's like
phenomenon.
That's like now. Like
Yep.
that person will be in, and they're young.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, you know, think about that. Think about like,
I
right?
think
20 years he'll be in his 40s, man. Like what? You know, they'll be in their 40s. Sorry for those.
Yeah. And I think like when I look at like the paint drops and all that stuff, like I want to support. Right? I think this shit is cool anyway, but I'm also down for like the cause. I think the work is sick, and I think like the David Bowie drop, like that was ill. It was so ill, like what they did, so ill.
I didn't really even look into it because I'm sort of anti. I'm just anti like those type of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the Ozzy Osbourne Bats thing that came out last year.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. Yeah.
I just can't, and I don't know. David Bowie's gone, right? So, and I'm sure his estate is doing what's best by him, or Iman is. You know, who knows, right? I don't know. Maybe it's exactly what he would have wanted, but when I see that stuff, I'm just like, I'm good. I definitely think. I have no idea what it even looked like.
He would be in this space in some way. You know,
sure.
But I mean, Bowie obviously visionary, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. But I think so. Something like Ferocious and. The work in this space is going to be so different in a few years' time.
Right.
You know what I mean? I definitely think that it's going to grow and mature. And there are many things now that are like really, listen, I think Fidenzas, Meridians, all that like sort of thing, like these early NFT generative art pieces are like always going to bang. There's just no two ways about it. But I think moving forward, things are going to change. We're going to see things, you know, in a different way. And are they going to be kind of like GIF type vibes? Is it going to be a film? You know what I mean? Like we haven't even gotten into like real proper like video NFTs, right? What do you think back to like? So I went to school, right, and I studied like experimental film and video and all that. And there are people like Stan Brakhage and Maya Deren and like what's his name, Namjoon Park. You know, so many of these people that like would crush in this space. And I think as it grows, like, yo, you're going to own those things? Like Akutars, like the chapters or whatever, you know, they're like little videos. It's so sick. And as we progress in this space, those things too, like the art is going to expand. Like what we view, you know, the sphere of this is going to be so much bigger. And I think that's why it's like cool to be in this now and to kind of like see where it's going into, and like do the research and like be a part of it, you know.
Totally. I've learned so much in the last 6 months to a year.
Oh man,
about artists that I've never would have even known about, and art, and like, just like, and man, I don't know if you've got friends in the real world that are like into art, who are like art enthusiasts, and if you maybe bring this anything digital NFT art up to them, they're like, get out of here with that shit.
Oh,
right?
No hats.
I mean, I got one friend who you and I know, and he's like, he is like one of the art enthusiasts that I look to talk about art. And I'm like, yo, NFT art, man. And he's like, I can't even with that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess his loss, right? I don't know. You know, I don't know. You know, it's so early.
Yeah, and I keep telling people I'm gonna like keep banging the drum on this, but like, fine, you don't think that like, you know, digital like life basically it like has as much value than physical. I get it. You know, you can't hang it on the wall. I mean, you can if you want to print it or whatever, but like, dude, digital identity, digital like world creation, all of this stuff, like we are curating that so much more than we are our real lives, and it's going to continue. And like the next generation, the generation after that, the generation after that, it's just going to increase and increase and increase. And dude, look at like the Reddit, you know, avatars. Bro, I mean, bang it, boom, 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 hitting so hard. Like people love that stuff. People love to curate their digital lives. And like, why are you not going to want to have digital art? It just, you know, the provenance, all that stuff. I just think, I think people are very short-sighted, and they're afraid, and they don't understand, and they think it's silly, and they're going to get
wrecked.
You know, wrecked, and they're going to come around eventually, right?
Sure.
But all right. So earlier too, kind of the point of this episode was to talk about Grails. So we kind of did earlier. You know, we mentioned some collections and things like that we dig. So let's break down again kind of like your thesis, or like the parameters of like what is a Grail to you, maybe what are some Grails that you're looking at, and how do you view things and value them?
Sure. So this idea of like what is a Grail, right? Like it almost is something that's unobtainable, right? This thing that you know, like, oh my God, like if I could only get that thing. So, you know, with the idea of Grails first came sort of across my thing was with punks, and this idea that, you know, like an alien or an ape punk or a hoodie punk, you know, like to ever have the opportunity to get that, right? You know, in the collecting world, the Jordan rookie, you know, the LeBron rookie, Mickey Mantle rookie, right? Like, just like, wow, like if I could only ever get that thing. So when it comes to Grail hunting, or it comes to sort of like how to even come across it, or what is it, or what are they, right? Like in the PFP world, you know, I'm not so sure that besides a Bored Ape Yacht Club, a CryptoPunk, or I guess really those two, right? Punks and apes. Within that, you know, you could call a floor ape, that could be a Grail for somebody, right? But like then you have those sort of four trait apes, right? Which are sort of sought after, which are very clean, sort of just like, pretty sure it's like just eyes, face, hair, and background. That's the four traits, I think, if I can remember correctly. What's come out, and I heard Kevin Rose talking about this a little bit on a Proof thing, you know, this idea of like hoodie punks being Grails just because of like the culture has sort of taken that, and now hoodies are like a thing, right? Like everybody wants a hoodie, you know.
6529, DC Investor, you know.
Right, exactly. These guys have hoodies. So I think the hoodies in the Grail are CryptoPunk Grails. In the art world, you know, in this video, and there's look out for on the Link Network, right? This YouTube video coming soon that I'm doing, sort of breaking down Grails, you know, in the art world, NFT.
And check
art
out the
world,
QQL videos too that Mike did.
Exactly.
Yes.
QQL videos. We were Grail hunting. I could talk about that in a second, sort of the idea behind that, right? But XCOPY, Fidenzas, archetypes, ringers. In my mind, those are the four, and I'm sure I'm missing some stuff art-wise. But I guess I was really just focusing on Artblocks type stuff. Chromie Squiggles too, for sure.
Squiggles, definitely.
Those five. When it comes to those are grails. I mean, even though, let's say, out of all of that, right, a Chromie Squiggle is the cheapest. Well, I guess you could get an XCOPY, right, for 0.6, but I'm not so sure I'd call a Max Payne a Grail. But really, just like they're like stuff that's been around for a minute. When Artblocks kicks off, right, it's like those original projects, like Tyler Hobbs, he's been, doing generative art for, pre-NFTs. So, Fidenzas were like a phenomenon and have become this thing. Now, I would say I should probably do a little more research. I don't exactly know if Fidenzas was the second drop on Artblocks. I know Squiggles was the first. So, why did that one hit and other ones from the beginning haven't? Mm-hmm. Good question, right? You have to really dig into the timing and et cetera, how it popped off like that. Within, let's say, for instance, just because I've been thinking about it, within the Fidenza Fidenza drop project, there's this one called God Mode, which, from what I understand, I need to do a little more research on it because I heard Dandelion talking about it on the Nucci podcast where he was talking about the idea behind it. I guess they were one of the original ones that invested in it. That because of the way it looks, right? So Fidenzas have like a sort of like, if you're not familiar with it, they're sort of colorful. They're like squiggle blocks sort of that fall in a pattern. But this God Mode one was like the culmination of three traits that basically... It's like sort of looks like a cyclone into a black hole, and the color's very sort of like vibrant, and they're overlapping one another. Versus a lot of Fidenzas, the colors are not overlapping. Like apparently, the algorithm, if you ran it another million times, would never get something like that again. So that's an emergent trait within the algorithm. And then if you flip that to QQL, and QQL, if you're not familiar, you go to qql.art. And you can run this generator. You link your wallet to it. You can run it, unlimited, basically, looking for emergent traits with the algorithm, which are basically going to be pieces that look absolutely unlike anything else that's come out of it. For instance, you run it, you kind of start to see these circles and everything. Not that it all looks the same, but it looks similar. You can tell this is all from one project. And then you get one where you're like, where did that even come from? That can become a grail if somebody latches onto it. But then again, right, art is in the eye of the beholder, right? Or beauty is too. This idea of like, well, cool, you look at it and like, I visually it looks fine. But it's like, it's this idea that it's like rare and also like that it happened at all, It's almost like this moment in time where you're like, wow, like this, I can't believe this even happened. So that's that. If you look at XCOPY, it's like a lot of his, one of one stuff from as far back as you can go would be considered grails, or a grail of his. And, I think what it comes down to is it's really just going to be, if you're looking for a grail, let's say in an Artblocks project, you're going to look for that emergent trait where it's the one of 500 or the one of 1,000 that just looks unlike all of the other ones. Right. And most likely, if you didn't mint it, then somebody already knows that this one is rare, and that's going to be, that's going to be more expensive. Right.
And also, too, things pick up steam, right? Like you said, culturally, like the hoodie punks or like ape punks and that kind of thing. And I think it's really important too to be knowledgeable about, obviously, like what's going on in the culture and with all of this stuff. But I think like to understand art, like where things have come from, like the history of things, right? I watched some like Tyler Hobbs videos from like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and he was like talking about his process, it's so fascinating. And to understand like where are these people coming from? what was he doing before that? Then he brought up Fidenza and all that thing. And, a lot of these people have put in a lot of time and effort. And, many people have just come to the NFT space like in the last 6 months, let's say, and they're saying like, oh, I'm buying this art, I'm doing this. And they put these collections together, and it's like, why did you buy that though? Is there conviction behind that? It's like, it's same thing with like trad art, right? Like, why are people into Basquiat? Why is he like besides Warhol, probably the most named like figure in art? You know what I mean? So I think it's like, we got to look for things too. Like my Grails, I've come to realize are like, not just the rare ones, but like, again, like traits that I associate with. Like there's certain traits in punks that I'm like, that's me. That's what I want. Yeah. It looks like me. I want that. You know what I mean? Like I like relate to that. Same thing. Like I look at Fidenzas or any of these things, like Memories of Keelan, like there are certain colors and patterns that I want. And like, that's my taste and my aesthetic, right? That I appreciate. And I think as that changes over time, it's like when I first listened to like Brian Eno, I was like, yeah, this is cool. And then you listen to Brian Eno a bunch, and I'm like, yeah, this is way more than cool, Right. And like my tastes evolve, So like I think it's kind of ever changing, and like sometimes one day something like clicks, and you're like, oh shit, oh yeah, I understand why.
Totally.
This is the thing that's popping. So
totally,
it's like listening to Dandelion or any of these people, you know what I mean? When they do like, I know Artblocks, this is just like an Artblocks fanboy podcast, but they do a podcast, I think it's called like After Dinner Mints or something. Dude,
oh yeah.
I love listening to that stuff. I just want to know why artists are doing what they're doing.
Right. Totally.
So I digress.
To know. It's really good to know what's going on behind the scenes and the fact that this space really wants to culture or wants to cultivate that, not every artist, right? But like a lot of people who are in this space want to talk about it and want to talk about their, their process, et cetera. I mean, XCOPY's, I guess, sort of the outlier on that, right? No one knows what he looks like or what he sounds like or any of that stuff. But, the fact that Tyler Hobbs is so open to talking about that shit, that it's like, oh, or Dandelion is like, this is how, like, let me tell you about all of this.
Amazing.
What a gift, right? To like be able to do that and be like, oh, cool. Like this is, so I love that. I absolutely love that. Just to touch on the Grail aspect of a PFP before I forget this, though, I think it's really important for me, right? Just like you were saying, that you want it to vibe with what it looks like because it's a PFP, right? So you kind of want it to look like you, I think, right? Or
like something about what I am into, or
right.
Even my oddity felt that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, my Moonbird is a skeleton with his head on fire, so I don't look like that. But also, like, if you know what I do in real life, like, it actually does kind of vibe with this idea of like who I am and whatever, right? So, but when it comes to CryptoPunks specifically, and I look at the CryptoPunks page pretty regularly to see sort of like what's for sale, etc. A couple things that I think we could probably end on this. The idea that, okay, so CryptoPunks has gotten, it's a Grail, right? So with that, what does that mean? Let's say I happen to come into 100 ETH. Like I turn on my MetaMask and it's like, you have 100 ETH, right? I could go and buy a CryptoPunk right now with that. But the CryptoPunk that I can buy for 100 ETH most likely is not going to look like me, which is interesting. I think it brings up a couple points, and this is definitely something where I think we need to do better in many ways, right? If you look at the CryptoPunks floor right now, most likely, I haven't looked today, but most likely your options for the first, I don't know how many it shows, let's say 10, I think it's more than 15, are going to be non-white, female CryptoPunk options, which is very interesting, right? So what does that mean? Well, if we can assume that because you and I want to get CryptoPunks that look like us, right, that those CryptoPunks are sitting there on the floor because those people that look like that don't have the money to buy that stuff, right? That's the first thing I think.
Or the access, right?
Access, money, whatever. Let's just, you're right. Let's not just say money, right?
Just like a broad.
They're not, correct.
Yeah.
Not interested, don't have the money, don't know how, don't even know it exists, whatever, right? All of that stuff. Not interested yet. That could be too, right? I mean, you know, I'm not saying that that non-white, non-male art collectors or people don't have the money. They just may not be even introduced to it, right?
Yeah,
I think that just is very telling. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, what
access
I think is
in
also
general is like a huge, you know.
Totally. Access in general.
Yeah.
I think what's also interesting, and I've been noticing it a little bit more on crypto Twitter, when I see, and this, you know, when I see a PFP that's a CryptoPunk, I kind of assume that the person behind that account looks like that.
Right.
Because CryptoPunks look like people, right? It's not like a bird or, you know, it's a human. So, okay, right? And when I find out that CryptoPunk and that person, if I happen to find out what that person looks like or who they are, when it doesn't match up, I'm sort of like, almost kind of like, you know, I'm a little let down, I think is the word. Why? Because I just feel like, I feel catfished a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when it's someone that identifies as one gender and they're rocking a different gender. Like, now I'm not saying that you can't, of course you could, if you identify that way and you want to do, that's fine. But like, let's say for instance, I know that person doesn't identify like that and they're like, you know, and they have like that PFP. But because it's a Grail, does it kind of like not matter?
Well, also, like,
know, I don't know.
In this space, can you?
Does it matter at all?
Yeah,
am I like thinking too much into it?
I think like sometimes, like to say like, you know, I think no matter what in life, we all gravitate towards things that kind of reinforce who we think we are or what we look like, blah blah blah, and you know, we dress that way, the music, all that stuff, it plays into it. I think too with this, like there are many discussions to be had here. Number one, if the female alien whatever is on the floor and that's the best I can do and I want to get involved, I'm gonna pick it up, right? And I'm not gonna think, and will I use it as my PFP? Well, dude, it's a punk, so like, yeah. And
Sure.
also,
but there's no alien on the floor, by the way.
I'm just like, yeah. I mean, come on, yeah. But I'm saying, you know what I mean? Just I'm making up like a random thing that perhaps doesn't represent me, let's say.
Correct.
Quote unquote.
But if you had to, you'd buy it.
Yeah, why not? Because,
I would
wait?
wait personally. I would wait. Yeah, I would.
But isn't like kind of the beauty of this space the fact that you can kind of be anybody you want to be and curate your experience? And is it limiting and unfair to say, well, if you get like a female or like, you know, there's like a hoodie punk, I think, you know, and like, and he's like a black guy. Like, can I not rock that? You know, am I saying something or am I trying to, you know?
Listen, man, you know, at the end of the day, I don't know.
It's an interesting, like sociological or like political almost discussion that we don't necessarily have to get into, nor do I really actually want to get involved in that aspect of it. I just think the space should be for everybody and we should all,
Agreed.
you know,
Agreed.
And the more inclusion and the more people that are exposed to it and have access and all that sort of thing, the better. It's a really, I mean, I just think that this brings up like such a huge, you know, discussion, you know.
Definitely.
And this can go so many ways. I mean, I think it's like maybe even we're going to devote a whole episode to it. I don't know.
I think you're right. I will say that we can answer this with what's already happened, that the Azuki founder, right, Zagabond, got thrown under the bus when it turned out that he was, previous to Azuki, had rugged a bunch of projects and at one point was pretending, whatever, to be a woman on crypto Twitter.
Right.
So,
right.
You know, yeah, I think I'll just present that without any
Yeah, yeah.
I have nothing else to say. I'm just saying, like, that, you know, like, not okay for that person because he stole a bunch of money, or because because he made a bunch of money and then stopped doing the project. But at one point, that person was posting on Twitter as if they were a woman, which would not be difficult. Let's just say the barrier to entry to do that is very low.
Yeah.
You and I could do that starting in 5 seconds now, right? So at the core of them at that time, did he identify, and maybe not.
Right.
So I think, you know, when it comes to Grails, like, maybe you just get in where you fit in. Like, does it matter? You know, like, there's a concert and it's sold out, you can't get in. Like, does it matter if you bought a ticket or somebody let you in the back door? At the end of the day, you're there. You know, you're at the show. Like, it doesn't matter how you got in, or maybe you're working the bar, right? You know, like, but you're still inside the venue. So you know,
yeah.
When it comes to Grails, maybe it just doesn't matter. Maybe it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like, you know, are we expecting morality too in the space? You know, it's like money and morality. I don't know if those mix, you know? Tough. Yeah,
Good
really
discussion.
hard questions. Yeah. I definitely think that it's something that will constantly evolve in this space, you know? And I do hope that, again, you know, more inclusion, more voices, more just, you know, thoughts and open-mindedness. You know, so.
Yeah, if you look up Balaji Srinivasi and if you, I can't actually find the podcast anymore. Not that it doesn't exist. I just, for some reason, Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, the search function sucks. So whoever is behind that, like, figure out a better way to search podcasts on Apple Podcasts. But anyway, there's one that he did with, I think it was with this guy Packy McCormick, and I'm pretty sure it was called the Pseudonymous Economy. And he was talking about in the future how, you know, pseudonyms and being anonymous and having NFTs and you know, PFPs that don't look like who you are, etc., creating, you know, and being able to work in that sense, what that could look like in the future. I think this, you know, that was the original thing that got me thinking about this in the broad scope.
Yeah, interesting.
So anyway,
you might have sent that to me, so I'll look through it.
Okay, cool. I'd like to listen to it again because I think it's like at least a year old at this point.
Yeah, that dude's amazing. Apology. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
sick. All
Channel
right, cool.
JPEG, baby.
Here we go. Thanks everybody for checking us out. We'll post this. We'll put up some other work. Mike's going to have another podcast and video dropping soon.
Yep.
This
and
week.
If you haven't already, like the podcast, subscribe, share it. If you're watching this on YouTube, like it, share it, subscribe.
Boom. Yep, that's it.
Comment. Cool. We'll get back to you. You know, comments.
Let us know. Hit us in the DMs.
Check us out on Twitter. Me at the Mike Elf. You
and Haymaker _studio.
Boom, baby. All right.
Peace.